Yo, what's up everybody? Ghosted here, and in less than 24 hours we're going to get our hands on the new giant update for PathofExile 2, Dawn of the Hunt. And the biggest question that I have been getting from people is how to level warrior. It can kind of be a struggle if you're not sure which weapons to use and what skills to take. So I'm going to be breaking that down in this leveling build guide video for you guys. And I actually just leveled a warrior recently for the purpose of this video, and I didn't use an ascendancy all the way through to Act 3 Cruel, no ascendancy. So again, no matter which ascendancy you're taking, this build should be pretty decent, and you can kind of alter it and stuff like that depending on which ascendancy you decide to go. So we're going to jump into that. I do have a build planner that I'll be discussing in the video. You may want to stick around and watch the video because you may have some questions that will actually get answered in the video. Don't just go straight to the planner. That could troll yourself in the long run. But yeah, let's jump straight into the video, starting with Act 1. Okay, so before we jump into talking about the build in great detail, I wanted to show you that this right here is the planner. My planner currently for the leveling build is on max roll. Okay, so what I wanted to show you guys is the passive tree, the skills that you'll be using with the support gems for them, as well as like the weapon and stuff like that through the playthrough, Act 1 all the way to Act 3 Cruel. Just kind of wanted to show you that there's different tabs for the passive tree, the skills, as well as the gear. So if you click on the arrow, the drop down arrow right here, you see it shows Act 1 right here, right? It's going to go all the way to Act 3 Cruel. So it does, I have it broken down that way so you're not confused as to where to go on the passive, as well as like with your skills and stuff like that. So I just wanted to show you that is the case with the skills as well, and the gear. So just keep that in mind when you do look at the planner for yourself. But again, we're going to be breaking down some things in the video that will help you out and leave you with less questions, hopefully. So yeah. Okay, so by far, in my opinion, in Act 1, the biggest improvement to warrior for Act 1 is just going to be your weapon. In my opinion, the best weapon for Act 1 is a stun build-up two-handed mace. In Act 1 in Clearfell Encampment, you can actually come to Renly and see what he has for sale. This is it right here, the Oak Great Hammer. This is the best weapon, in my opinion, for Act 1. You want as high a stun buildup as you can get. This one shows like 30%. I think the highest is 50%. And you can look in the planner, you do want like physical damage or attack speed added onto it. You can also find these. Just pay attention in Act 1. If you see a two-handed mace called Oak Great Hammer, that is what you want. It's going to stun bosses to the point where they can't even get mechanics off before they die. Like, no joke, that's how it was for me. That's how it should be for you guys in Act 1 as well. Okay, so we're back over on the planner, and we're going to be looking at our Act 1 skills as well as our passive. So pretty much with that two-handed mace that I just showed you, which also does show in Act 1 for the weapon that we'll be taking. Again, physical damage, attack speeds, pretty much what you want on it. That combined with the stun buildup will kill enemies very quick and bosses. But let's talk about the skills a little bit. So again, your basic skill Mace Strike is what you're primarily going to be using to do a lot of damage, starting out anyway. I did take Martial Tempo because the faster you attack, the quicker you're going to be building up stun on bosses. And also you will want to be putting in Concentrated Effect just for that 40% more area damage. That's just going to be insane damage for you early on. And one thing that I do really want to talk about here is the next skill that you will be taking in Act 1, which is Bone Shatter. So if you're not sure, if you've never really used Bone Shatter before, once enemies are primed for stun, you use Bone Shatter, and it's almost like an execute. So when an enemy is primed for stun, you would proc Bone Shatter, and it's going to do like AoE damage to enemies around the enemy that's primed for stun as well. And just to add more area of effect, I did go with Magnified Effect here as well as Execute. This is something I put on just to ensure that, like, you know, the little mobs are definitely dying and things like that. The way that you would prime an enemy for stun is with Mace Strike, as well as Earthquake is the next skill that I took. And this one right here, I did put Fast Forward, so it is exploding quicker. I'm sure you're familiar with Earthquake. And also, Fist of War is something I used early on because you don't use it super often, and it's essentially boosted every 6 seconds, meaning it does more damage. and that can also prime enemies for stun too with Bone Shatter. And as far as these skills go, I tried to put them in order of when you will be taking these. Again, early gameplay is going to be Mace Strike to prime enemies, then Bone Shatter. Or if you're trying not to get hit, you throw down Earthquake, kind of kite around, prime enemies for stun, use Bone Shatter. And then you are going to get to a point when you do get 30 Spirit in Act 1. And that's when I actually take Wind Dancer.
What?
This is probably going to sound really weird to warrior players out there. The reason I take Wind Dancer is because evasion is very good early on, especially and later in the game. But also, Wind Dancer is technically like a melee AoE, and it also can prime enemies for stun. So while you're going through the leveling process early on, if you get hit, it potentially primes enemies for stun, and then you Bone Shatter. So it's a defensive that also kind of correlates into an offensive skill as well. So I think early on this is a really nice play. It's also a little bit different from what warriors would normally take. This is like my spin on warrior. So this is added in. You will get rid of it later on, but it honestly early on it's goated. I'm not kidding. And then you are going to get to a point with your skill that you're going to get Perfect Strike. And this is going to be like your big boss damage until you get Hammer of the Gods. Again, Hammer of the Gods does look like it is changed in the new update. I'm going to have to get my hands on it and really see how it goes. Maybe I'll talk about Hammer of the Gods in a video or something to help warriors out when we do get the update and we can see what happens. So Perfect Strike, it's an attack that you charge up. You want to get it to a perfect timing. Once the perfect timing is, once you reach the perfect timing, that's when you let go and it does like big damage. To kind of speed it up a little bit, you do want to take Window of Opportunity to shorten that perfect timing window. As well as I added Fire Infusion early on. The fire damage did help with ticking down like boss health and stuff like that. So this will be your skills in Act 1. I know I'm just showing you the planner, but this is how you're going to be looking at it when you're going through using the build anyways. So figured this would be also the best way to talk about the skills. So yeah. Okay, so we're logged back in on the warrior. I did kind of want to show you the passive from the in-game perspective instead of just the planner. This is me after completing Act 3 Cruel and stuff, so you're going to see extra passives. But I'm just going to show you, again, no Ascendancy. The way that you actually path in Act 1 to Resolute Technique. This is in Act 1, just beelining it straight for this will cause you to no longer miss any attacks. I think the most frustrating thing about warrior, early game especially, is how much your attacks actually miss. That can lead to you dying and just like shit damage, obviously, because you're missing. So what I do with my passive tree is as I'm leveling through Act 1, I'm just heading straight down, again, straight down, ignoring all this extra shit, to Resolute Technique. This, again, allows you to not miss hits ever. You can't crit, but honestly, it's just going to be more consistent this way. And not having to worry about accuracy and stuff like that. Just beeline it straight for Resolute Technique. It reflects in the planner as well. Just straight for Resolute Technique. I promise you, in Act 1, this is the move. Act 1 is like easy sailing the whole way, I promise you. Alright, so during this leveling process, I didn't use an Ascendancy just to see how well it did without one. So you guys could use this build for any Ascendancy. But I would be an asshole if I didn't show you guys what I would take if I was to pick an Ascendancy. So this is right here is the Titan Ascendancy. And obviously you just want to head for Hulking Form, 50% increase effect of small passive skills. This is like my favorite part of any Ascendancy. So for Titan, Hulking Form all day. Let's look at Warbringer really quick too. I like breaking armor with Warbringer, so I would head up for Imploding Impacts. You can break enemy armor to below 0. Obviously this is good too. Break equal to 10% of hit damage dealt. So that's what I would do for Warbringer. And for Smith of Katava is what it's called. I think Living Weapon and Against the Anvil are going to be pretty cool ones to take. If you can do early game Smith Masterwork and take some of this stuff, I mean, that'd be pretty cool too. But yeah, I'd go for like Living Weapon Against the Anvil for Smith of Katava, which I might be playing on release of the update. So there's the Ascendancies and what I would probably pick if I were you guys, depending on which Ascendancy you decide to go. So this is just kind of like a pro tip that I would like to add during the leveling process. Every single time that you level, these NPCs that are also vendors, their stock or inventory changes every time you level. So this all these things will be changing every single time you level. So just kind of wanted to throw in as like, a tip. Every time you level, maybe come back and check the vendors. They might have good stuff that you can add and improve your build as you're going along. So I just wanted to add that real quick as well. Okay, so Act 1's going to be pretty easy mode, I think. If you take that two-handed Oak Great Hammer weapon and just apply everything, and you're priming enemies for stun with Bone Shatter, it should be GG. Now we are into Act 2, and if you look at the planner, this is what's going to change, kind of in order as well. I try to list stuff in order as well. I do want to say that there was the patch notes just came out, and Leap Slam did get kind of buffed. It does way more stun build up, so you guys might want to incorporate Leap Slam. I didn't in the planner, and I don't want to alter it because I actually had smooth sailing all the way up until like Act 3 Cruels, where I started to struggle a little bit just with survivability. Damage was still pretty good though. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about Act 2. So we did incorporate Infernal Cry here. This is going to allow your next attack to be empowered. So we combine this pretty much with Perfect Strike. So you use Infernal Cry, and then you hit Perfect Strike for a little bit more damage added on. And we also put in Premeditation as a support gem. It's going to add empowered percentage damage. And this is multiplicative since it says 15% more. That's going to be quite a bit added damage as well. And then I did add Armor Breaker. I'll be honest, just create the Armor Breaker skill and hold on to it. The lower level Armor Breaker is, the less armor it breaks. So it's going to be something you're using a lot later. The higher skill gem, the more armor is going to break. I didn't feel like it was that great in Act 2, but I did have it like ready to go just in case. And then I ended up getting a little bit more spirit. So what you could do is keep Wind Dancer and add Herald of Ash to your build if you find like a chest piece that adds more spirit. I found like multiple of these. If you don't have that luck, I'm sorry. But yeah, I ended up adding Herald of Ash in Act 2. And I did throw on Persistence to make it to where the Ignite is lasting a bit longer on the enemies. That's what I went with. But again, same shit. What I do want to mention is at level 22, you will get access to a new weapon. This is the Cultist Great Hammer. This weapon does splash damage, aka like AoE. So you definitely, once you hit level 22, you want to keep an eye out for a Cultist Great Hammer. I think in the update they're changing the name of it, but this is what it looks like right here. The icon should be exactly the same. Keep an eye out for the Cultist Great Hammer, whatever the fuck they're changing the name to. I'm not sure. And then I just threw on stats that are really good to get on it, like increased physical, added physical, increased attack speed, ranks to melee skills. These are all great stats to have on it. Your weapon's not going to look like that one. These are just good stats to have on the Great Hammer when you find it. So yeah, that's that. And also at level 28, you will get Temple Mauls, so you can kind of keep an eye out for these at like level 28 as well. And these are just going to be big damage weapons to help you as you're progressing through Act 2. So yeah, that's the skills as well as the weapon for Act 2. Okay, so now we're going to jump in and talk about the Act 2 passive tree. So you already saw in Act 1 that we went straight for Resolute Technique. What I did here was just get some added strength. Beef gives you plus 25. The ones around it give you a little bit extra, plus 8. We also came up and we got more skill speed. This is going to just help with getting your attacks off a little bit quicker. This even applies to Perfect Strike, which is going to be for our boss damage or killing like rares or magic enemies. And we also got Rage on melee hit. This is just going to help with doing more damage as well. So there's a 3% chance you could even get maximum rage. I added that. It felt pretty good. And then I come down here and I actually take these 2 points. These points right here, they're smaller passives, but it's a big damage increase, especially while we're using a two-handed mace. So these right here, big damage from that. And then we're just coming up here and getting added strength. It does reduce our mana percentage, but we don't use a lot of mana right now, or honestly through the rest of our playthrough really. So yeah. One thing that I did want to add in for Act 2 is the only time I had an issue was in Valley of the Titans when I went to fight, the Titan boss. He took just a little bit longer to kill than like all the other bosses. I'm not sure exactly why. I think sometimes you just have trouble hitting him, like your attacks will miss sometimes because he's like this giant enemy with a weird hitbox or something. So Act 2 was a breeze. It was very smooth. The only issue was like doing damage to the Titan was wonky sometimes, I guess. So I just wanted to add that in there. All right, we've made it halfway through the video pretty much, and it is shameless plug time. This is not a sponsor, but I am going to talk to you guys about what I like to do, and that is full-time streaming over on twitch.tv/ghosted. I would love to see you guys over there. Head on over, hit us with a follow, jump into the chat. If you have any questions about Warrior or PoE, jump in. We can answer those questions in real time for you. If I can't, my chat definitely can. Some of them are even more knowledgeable than me. Don't tell them I said that, though. All right, shameless plug is over. Appreciate you guys. All right, so we've actually made it to Act 3 now, and I wanted to bring up something pretty important with questing through Act 3. This NPC right here, Survey, is going to be giving you like a quest for the Venom Crypts. Once you complete it, there's going to be 3 different passives that you can choose between, like Stun Threshold, Elemental Ailment Threshold, and Mana Regen. So in my playthrough for this leveling build guide, I took Stun Threshold because in the end game you get stunned a lot and it causes you to die. But in this new update, they are making it to where you're going to be getting like Frozen and Shock and Ignite and all that stuff done to you way more often. So I would also maybe recommend going Elemental Ailment Threshold when you do turn in the quest from Survey instead of Stun Threshold, because it seems like they want you to get frozen and stuff a lot more. You can heal through it, but it's probably going to lead to way more deaths than it was previously. So maybe we're going to swap to Elemental Ailment Threshold for after this update happens. So yeah, either Stun Threshold or Elemental Ailment Threshold. I'm going to take Elemental Ailment Threshold and test that out once the update does drop. So yeah. Really quick, I just want to talk about the skills that we do use in Act 3. It's going to stay very similar. Just go through the order of the support gems. Some of the support gems do kind of get changed around a little bit, as you can tell right here. So just adjust that accordingly, and we'll talk about the passive and the weapons and stuff a little bit in detail, because your build's going to change quite a bit once we get into Act 3. And for instance, what I mean by that is you're actually going to have access to Giant's Blood, which does allow you to use a two-handed weapon in one hand. It does triple the strength requirement for this, but we're going to have enough strength to pretty much do so. So you'll be using a two-handed weapon with Giant's Blood as well as a shield. And that will allow for you to have extra stats on a shield, which is why you would do so. If you don't have enough strength yet, you should be getting close to it. Just get ready to throw on Giant's Blood whenever you have enough strength. Yeah, so in Act 3, we're still using our weapon from Act 2. Hopefully you guys have better RNG than me, but again, this is going to be level 28, a Temple Maul with just more damage or attack speed or ranks to melee. And then with Giant's Blood, you'll also be able to rock a shield with it. Just get whatever stats you can on a decent shield. Block chance is really good, as well as obviously like more armor or resistances, stuff like that. So that's going to be the weapons for Act 3 as well. Okay, and again, my character is like done with Act 3 Cruel, so I'm showing you the passive through the planner just so it's not like overwhelming to see a bunch of passives everywhere that I have. So I'm showing you the Act 2 passive tree, and I'm going to swap to the Act 3 passive tree. You're going to see that we do get a little bit of two-handed damage right here. Not speccing into the big passives yet because they do reduce your attack speed. Also coming over here, getting some of this stun build up, as well as like more damage to heavy stun enemies. And right here, we're just speccing into a lot more strength for the build, since we are using Giant's Blood and we need as much strength as we can get in order to use Giant's Blood with the triple attribute requirement. So yeah, nothing too crazy with the passives changing here, but that's pretty much Act 3. You shouldn't have too much trouble in Act 3. Cruel difficulty, we'll get into that next, and honestly it wasn't much of a struggle either. I did start to have survivability issues in Act 3 Cruel, but that was just due to me playing solo self-found and getting pretty shit gear with not a lot of defensives or resistances, so yeah. Okay, so at this point, we are now into Act 1 Cruel difficulty. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, if you didn't have much of a problem in Act 3, you're not going to have much of a problem in Act 1 Cruel or Act 2 Cruel. It's kind of just stuff you've already done and you're a little bit more geared for it. So, again, not too bad. I will still go over like the skills as well as the passive and weapons and stuff, but it's kind of staying the same and just adding a little bit more. So let's get into that real quick. Okay, so going from our skills from Act 3 to Act 1 Cruel difficulty, this is what I kind of swapped around. I just added like Swift Affliction. I did change around the supports on like Mace Strike, but again, that's pretty much it for the skills. Also, my weapon didn't really change. It's been the same since like the end of Act 2 when you get like a really good Temple Maul with like physical damage and stuff. Pretty much just trying to find better gear as you're going through it, and also just kind of knocking it out pretty quick because like I said, not much has changed. Here's the Act 3 passive right here that I'm showing you. And then when you change it to the Act 1 Cruel difficulty, you're just adding in a passive like down here, and then you're getting a bunch of strength passives, and you're just heading up to getting more like melee damage and stuff like that. So again, Act 1, not that crazy. We'll head to Act 2, where I don't think it's going to get much crazier for you either. All right, here we are, baby. This is Act 2 Cruel, and honestly, Act 2 Cruel gets pretty good because you do get access to Hammer of the Gods, which again will be getting changed in the new update, and I'll probably have to jump in and see that for myself. But right now, with making this video, Hammer of the Gods, during the leveling process, it's not really broken. It's really good for, you know, added boss damage and killing rares or magic enemies if you need it to. But it's a nice addition to the build because honestly, Act 3 and Act 1 Cruel were kind of just more of the same. So right now we do get a little bit more added to the build, but again, Act 2 Cruel shouldn't be too difficult for anybody. Okay, and so with Act 2 Cruel, this is where I actually got rid of Wind Dancer for Overwhelming Presence. Okay, Overwhelming Presence is really good. It's going to reduce enemy elemental ailment threshold as well as their stun threshold. And we do use Bone Shatter, so priming enemies for stun should get a little bit better. And also I did go ahead and I put cannibalism in that if you have enough spirit. If you don't have enough spirit, then use like something that's just going to give you life regen. I think it's called like Vitality, I believe is what it's called. And also we do get Hammer of the Gods, like I said. This is just better for boss damage as we're getting into the harder difficulties with Cruel. And we do swap around some things. We did take, you know, some stuff from Perfect Strike and swap it to Hammer of the Gods. For example, Concentrated Effect. As well as we do have level 3 support gems now. So we did take Heft for just bigger physical damage. And for some reason on Maxwell's Planner, Primal Armament, the visual for it doesn't show. Take note of that. The visual for Primal Armament doesn't show, but it's just increased elemental damage. So again, big damage right there, and just more of the same with Overwhelming Presence and Hammer of the Gods added to the build, and we did scrap Wind Dancer. And just talking about the weapon, I had the same weapon, and it did pretty decent. I was not having the best drops. Again, every time you level, you can check those vendors, but I was trying not to waste gold and like gamble all my gold away, just saving it, and I decided to try to make the run difficult because if I could do it with no ascendancy and struggle a little bit, then you guys with your ascendancies could definitely have a little bit of a better time than I did. So yeah, it was kind of a struggle run, but I still didn't have much of a struggle until Act 3 Cruel a little bit. Okay, so you're looking at the passive right now, and this is gonna just kind of branch out a little bit. So this is Act 1 Cruel swapping to Act 2 Cruel, and we are coming all the way over here getting a bunch of strength nodes and getting like increased two-handed damage really is what I did in Act 2. Just more damage to kill quicker and just kind of try to breeze through the content. And also by this point, you should have enough strength to where you maybe just hard swap to just straight armor gear instead of like armor evasion. I was kind of using armor evasion, but then you don't meet the dex requirement, so then just swapping to like straight armor would be your best bet. One thing I do want to mention, because I had this issue in my in-game build with people not really understanding how to combo Hammer of the Gods, so I did change like to where we're building rage with our Mace Strike. So you want to build up your rage. Once you do that, then you want to use Infernal Cry, that will empower when you next use Hammer of the Gods. That would be like the combo for bossing. You build up your rage, you pop Infernal Cry, and then you drop Hammer of the Gods, hoping it does like a big chunk of damage, and then you just spam Perfect Strike, so it just changes a little bit at the start of your boss damage, but nothing crazy. Okay, we are almost done with leveling at this point. We are in Act 3 Cruel, and I did want to just talk about the Venom Crypts side quest again from Survey. They're going to give you 3 different options. I took the Chaos Resistance, so yeah, more Chaos Resistance, the better for endgame, that's for sure. Alright, so in Act 3 Cruel, this is where I had like the struggle started to be noticeable a little bit, and it was just due to survivability. The enemies, some enemies are definitely overtuned in Act 3 Cruel, like in the Exile area or whatever it's called. So you're gonna get stunned a bit more. You're gonna notice if your resistances aren't great, you're gonna die a little bit more. The build kind of just stays the same. It just, at this point, you're just relying on RNG for better equipment, like your gear. But if we look right here, we just added a support gym. We just added vitality. I had enough spirit to add vitality. Make sure you're killing the bog witch for spirit, extra spirit and stuff. But the build didn't really change from Act 2 to Act 3 Cruel difficulty. And now I'll just jump in, show you the passives really quickly. Let's just go in and swap that. So what I ended up doing was, this is Act 2, and then we swapped to Act 3. So I did kind of take this bigger node for Colossal Weapon, increased area of effect for attacks, and we get a little bit of strength. We also took the Singular Purpose. It does reduce our attack speed, but we get added stun build up and increased damage. And we also, we come up here and we do get added physical, as well as increased attack and cast speed plus physical damage. So that attack speed will actually counterbalance the fact that we got reduced attack speed right here. You're not going to feel super slow. It is warrior, so it does feel kind of slower than the other classes, but overall still really good. And I did this with no ascendancy, so maybe if you guys are running an ascendancy, whether it's Titan, Warbringer, or the new Smith one, Katava Smith or whatever, you probably won't have as much of an issue, and hopefully you have great RNG as well, and that will definitely help with progressing through Act 3 Cruel to get into that end difficulty in the end game, which should be a lot better than it was in the past 4 months too. So okay, here we are back at the main menu as this clock is ticking down for us to jump into the update. As you guys are seeing this video, it's already out, but this is where we're going to end it on. I do appreciate you guys watching the video. I want you guys to know that I don't expect this to be like the best build guide of all time or anything like that. I wanted to make something that was simplistic for anybody to get their hands on and kind of have less of a struggle with. Again, with going no ascendancy, you guys can kind of steer it in your own way. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully you guys have less of a problem with leveling as warrior. I know it felt pretty good for me. It was better than my first time leveling warrior, that was for sure. So I also wanted to ask you guys, if you sat through to the end of this video, if you would please like the video as well as subscribe to the channel. I do stream full time, but I am trying to get into making videos way more often. So, you know, if you guys can help push it through the algorithm, leave a comment as well, that's going to help out a ton, honestly. If you guys do so, I would really appreciate that. And also, let me know what you think if you decide to go leveling with this build. But again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. See you.